This episode was recorded before MIPCOM.
You're listening to Inside Content, the TV industry podcast. This show is brought to you by 3Vision, a global TV industry consultancy specializing in content acquisition, strategy, research, and business development. Each episode, we give you VIP access to the views and experiences of senior TV executives and discuss the latest TV industry trends and insights.
I'm Jack Thomas, Director at Freevision, and on this episode of Inside Content, I'm joined by Jens Richter, CEO of Fremantle International. We dive into the increased breadth of the Fremantle catalogue, how the US strikers affect their business, the opportunities the distributor sees to engage in co-productions, and how a unique partnership with Amazon's Freevee helps bring the iconic soap Neighbours back from cancellation. Hi Jens, how are you doing?
Very well, Jack. Thank you for having me.
That's good. Thank you for coming on to Inside Content. It's really great to have you here. I think I can imagine a lot of our listeners are probably already quite aware of you and your role at Fremantle, but for the benefit of those who aren't quite as up to date with your job title and everything you get up to, would you be able to talk us through what your role is at Fremantle?
Sure. My role at Fremantle here, it's called CEO of Commercial and International. And what is that? That includes I run the distribution business and the program finance business and the co-production and pre-sales. And we have our raft of offices spread around the world and the sales team. So that's basically one division. And then the channel business. So we run a little bit more than 30 fast channels around the world. And then and we have a syndicated cable channel in America. And then the digital business, YouTube, Facebook, that's all in there.
Okay,
Basically,
wow,
there's a full-on monetization around our shows.
Oh, wow. So, quite a broad remit there. So, I guess, speaking of breadth,
Yep.
Fremantle's quite active across many different genres of show.
Yeah.
Is there anything in terms of recently that you're seeing more growth in or more demand from buyers in terms of the types of content that you guys are distributing?
Well, it's like the beauty about Fremantle is we're pretty balanced, right? So we come from the entertainment space originally, right? So Got Talent, Idol, X Factor. We are one of the biggest game show producers in the world, if not the biggest. Match Game, Family Feud, The Price is Right, and many more. So very strong base in entertainment. Constantly also launching new entertainment shows. And that's one big base. Then about 10 years ago, we moved heavily into drama and expanded into the drama space. And now we produce drama all around the world. So a couple of production labels in the UK, drama from North America, Latin America, from all around Europe to Asia and Australia. So lots of drama. And then we are probably comes from our heritage from the entertainment. We are also very strong in the formatted entertainment space and the factual entertainment space. So we're cooking with Jamie Oliver for more than 20 years. We are the partners for Project Runway. We are Grand Designs, Railways. So it's a couple of amazing, very, very long running franchises, very strong in that. And the most recent space we ventured in, I would say over the last 4 or 5 years, is documentary, factual. That's premium documentaries, and that shows like Planet Sex, which with Cara Delevingne that we had last year. This year it's shows like Coco Chanel, which we are launching at the moment. So a very, very wide production base, and therefore our portfolio and the slate that we bring to market is very balanced.
No, definitely. I think it's interesting as we see more distributors, particularly from the UK as well, starting to dip their toes into that kind of sort of bigger budget factual space, which you guys have occupied for a fair amount of time. Do you see a sort of general growth in this type of content being produced, and how are you guys sort of keeping up with the emerging competition?
So in the factual space, I would say there is we do see, like in the overall market, you see a little bit of a reshift in the market in general, right? And that is mainly driven by the reset in the platform business. The platform business, until you can almost put a date to it, March last year, when Netflix came out with their numbers, March last year, and it was the first time that they couldn't show growth, and that brought attention from the investor market, right? And suddenly the paradigm shifted. The paradigm shifted from all about growth and subscriber growth to platforms need to make profit, right? And now you can say that basically almost all platforms around the world, told the investor market within the next 18 months or so, we're gonna produce profit, and that is changing the way they buy and the way they commission, right? And that also has an impact across all genres, also impact on the factual documentary market. I think in general, the factual documentary market is super exciting, and it developed really, really, really nicely. The key now is going forward, or in the present market, is that you have also in the factual space, you have IPs or programs that really entertain. That sounds really simple, but it comes down to that point, like shows that can generate traffic, right? And can excite audiences. So when we launch, for instance, now a movie on Coco Chanel, that is one of the biggest brands that there has been in the fashion world. When you were watching, I'm sure you also were one of the guys. I did it, watching the last Barbie movie. In the Barbie
Hmm.
movie, you had Birkenstock and Coco Chanel, right?
Yeah.
The Coco Chanel bags were all over the place. So that is one of the biggest brands in fashion, and I'm thrilled that we can take that movie to market. That's a good example, right? And big natural history, wildlife, that will always work as well. And exciting big science, or we're taking out House of Kardashians now. There's probably no bigger brand in the reality space than the Kardashians, right? And this is the three-part documentary about the Kardashian family and how they started. I think that those are good examples of factual shows that can do really well in the current market.
So, are you, as a result of what you were saying about the streamers, are you seeing a little bit more interest from them in acquiring some factual content rather than the sort of previous strategy of produce everything in house?
They were very active buyers, actually,
Mm.
of licenses. It's like, and I think most of the streamers at one point in time over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years, were, for instance, very, very active festival buyers. They would go to Sundance and buy movies and bid against each other and outbid each other, and buy at really high prices. And the lucky producers that were able to land a deal during the festivals were able to walk away with real big upsides, right? The Netflixes and the Amazon and the HBOs of this world, they didn't go all at the same time to the same Sundance. They all had I would say it was spread across various few years, 2, 3 years, where they had their go at the markets. That business really slowed down, that kind of licensing business, right? So the last Sundance, there weren't much big deals to talk about, as an example. I think what they're doing now is they reset. They look at, like, what are the factuals that we really need. They buy all year round. They're really cautious in terms of, like, what's the value that this show can bring to us, versus what kind of money do we want to put into the show, and what's the budget of that show. So the days of producing something at, I don't know, 2 million and selling it for 10, they're going to be very rare going forward. I think that's an example of the reset in the market, which isn't bad. It's just something that you need to have in your mind when you invest and produce documentaries, and it has an impact on how you want to bring those documentaries to market.
Yeah.
Right?
So what aspect of do you think that's affecting your thinking now as you see the streamers be a little bit more tactful? Is that
It impacts us insofar that we really think about, when we look at a specific idea, is this, let's say, kind of an elevated mainstream documentary? It needs to be premium, right? It needs to hit the market. Is this idea in front of us, is this the right kind of idea? Where could it attract audiences? Is it more of a global show that could land on streamers? Our strength as Fremantle also is we have a dozen sales offices spread around the world. So from Tokyo to Miami and Dubai and Sydney and many other places, we have boots on the ground with our people, with our teams. So we have very close connection into the local market. So when we sell a documentary feature, for instance, we are not dependent on that one global deal, right? So most of the time, actually, we take it into the single markets, very targeted, and find the right audience on the right platform, on the right broadcaster in this specific market. Instead of doing one big deal, we're doing 50 deals, right? It's a lot more work, but we can address the global audiences in a very, very targeted way, and which then at the end of the day also commercially is really interesting. I think that's an advantage we have compared to maybe a highly specialized documentary sales house that operates out of one location and is really, really dependent on landing that global deal, right? And also the choice of topics. We probably at the moment wouldn't go for hyper niche, right? Because we see at the moment that you could also say that where somebody, like, if a streamer now is at 250 million subscribers, they want to go to the next level. Their question is, how can we reach the 500 million, right? That's one thing. The other thing is very, very interesting is we all saw that Netflix, and now others followed, offered the ad-supported reduced subscriber option as well, meaning SVOD isn't SVOD anymore, right? I mean, SVOD now is SVOD plus AVOD component on top. What's the impact of that change? That's a pretty dramatic change if you think about it, right? Because suddenly content needs to be advertiser friendly, not subscription friendly, right? So shows on these platforms, which maybe 2 or 3 years sometimes went very, very, very niche and addressed really very specific niche audiences, targeted audiences, suddenly now sell advertising to the Procter and Gambles of the world. So it will mean also, these two elements, the appetite for scaling up to the next few 100 million subscribers, plus the fact that now most of them want to sell advertising, means the nature of some of their shows will change.
Yeah. So obviously that benefit from shows potentially originally produced for TV might have much more of an appeal to them.
I mean, the super sample is, when you look at what we're currently doing right now at this very moment, super examples in this space is, one is what we're doing with Freevee, which is AVOD, pure AVOD, right? What we are doing with Freevee in the UK, relaunching Neighbours.
Yes, absolutely. Very near and dear to my heart, that show.
Absolutely, Jack. You're going to be happy. It's going to be revamped. It's going to be, I would say it is elevated, slightly elevated to when you compare it with the old Neighbours. So it is, it's now bespoke for Freevee, right? But it's still your Neighbours, right? So, and what did attract them to Neighbours was the fact that it's a hugely commercial, big mainstream brand in one of their most important markets, right?
Yes. So from what I understand, it's sort of led a big sort of new marketing push for Amazon Freevee. The service in general is the launch of Neighbours on that service.
And it will bring in a huge new audience to them, right? So that's a good sample of what we did with the VOD platform here in the UK. And then another good sample of what we did in Italy is with Disney Plus, which is an SVOD platform, right? And with Disney Plus in Italy, we launched for them with them Italy's Got Talent on Disney Plus, and it just went out for a couple of weeks now, and it seems very successful. So, and that's really, really exciting. That is also a beloved. It used to be a free to air commercial brand. It used to be on Mediaset back in the day. Then it moved to Sky, and now to Disney Plus. So it's exciting to see that streaming platforms also more and more venture into entertainment and go truly, truly mainstream.
Yeah, it's really exciting stuff. I guess I'd be curious to talk to you a little bit more about the studio-owned streamers like Disney Plus, and tapping a little bit into your boots on the ground, I suppose, as well. Obviously, we saw a period for a long time where the likes of Disney and many other studio SVODs diverted their entire content pipelines onto those services, making the market for US content a lot tougher for local buyers. I'm curious if that was a period that it felt like there was a great opportunity for Fremantle to step into some of those sort of studio shoes, as their shows were no longer available to third parties, and then likewise as we start to see them signaling a change of strategy in those areas as they potentially start selling more of their shows out, and obviously in your case as well in Italy, taking other shows in to the service.
I
Is
think
there is
the market becomes, it's a very good question, Jack. I believe the market becomes a lot more fluid in general. Absolutely right. Studios like Disney or Warner, Discovery, that had been holding back their content, their shows, within their, keeping them in their walled gardens. The idea was keeping it completely exclusive, and a lot of it, and then putting it straight on their platforms. They open, they put down the walls again, right? And now the program is widely available on the market. So, and we saw that at the last LA screenings. We see it again now at MIPCOM, and for instance, also MGM now brings Amazon shows to the market. Right? It's not just the studios; it's also Amazon bringing their shows to the market. So it's a very open market. And I would say it like this: there was a brief moment in time when distributors like us thought, "Oh, this is good. They keep it within their walled gardens, brings in an opportunity for us." But frankly speaking, people like us, or All Three, or Benny J, ITV, we don't have a huge pipeline of American-made drama, right? So the demand, any client who has a very targeted demand for that specific kind of product, we can't fulfill that product need to the extent studios can, right? So that's why I believe it wasn't such a big game changer, such a huge commercial opportunity for us from the first place, right?
hmm.
Or in the first place.
Did you see any local buyers potentially sort of expand their scope, their interest in type of content, like a buyer that might have traditionally only bought US content, now under the pressures that we saw with those walled gardens, start to think, okay, well maybe we should take something from the UK or
Mm,
something from Australia
Maybe,
as something
maybe,
that might
maybe
sort of fill
to
a gap?
maybe to a certain extent that happened. Absolutely. The other trend that we also saw, however, over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, is that when you look at commercial broadcasters in Europe, for instance, which is probably the market where US studios make the most money for their US dramas. When you look at markets like Italy, Spain, or France or Germany, if a big broadcaster might have had like 4 US drama slots prime time a week, right? Background information: 5 years ago, or a few years ago, television in the UK looked very different than television on the continent. When you were looking at time slots, right, and schedules, you saw a lot more. Historically, there was a lot more US drama on European prime time compared to the UK. So European prime time on a commercial broadcast are easily 3 days, 3 nights a week that you would have filled with US drama. those US drama slots went away over the years, a lot, right? And a lot of those slots now are filled with local entertainment, local produced entertainment, which is a clear upside for people like us or J or whomever else to produce local entertainment. So what I'm trying to say is, over the last couple of years, there were some slots lost for US drama, but not necessarily taken over by UK drama, maybe to an extent, but to a wide extent, those slots were taken over by entertainment.
And do you think those slots, those sort of previous sort of US scripted slots, fell out because of the kind of content pipeline diversion, or was this something
I think it's.
a
I
phenomenon that was
think.
happening before
I
then?
think it would happen anyway, and it's like it
Yeah.
all happened parallel. I think it's more
Mm.
if you are a local broadcaster and you see all these platforms coming in one after the other, and these platforms are driven mainly by drama and mainly by US drama, then why should I still have, as a local broadcaster, 3 or 4 nights US drama? How do I position myself against these platforms, right? Especially as I see these platforms becoming more and more successful. So what I do as a local broadcaster, I become more local, right? So I have more local sports, I have more local news, more local weather, more local politics, more local magazines, more local reality, more local game shows, more local entertainment shows. That's how I position myself more and more. And that's what we saw. But at the same time, as a local broadcaster, you can't do that with your whole schedule because that's way too expensive. So you always
Mm.
need to license.
So I guess, yeah, I'm curious if in that sort of look at more local, but obviously can't necessarily front it all yourself because
No.
it's more expensive. Have you seen a more renewed interest from different international partners in terms of engaging in co-productions?
Co-productions is a big topic in general. It's like, and co-production is a big topic with local broadcasters and now as well with the platforms. With the local broadcasters, it comes from the perspective that if content or production becomes more expensive, I need to partner up with other people, right? And co-production is an amazing way to get involved early, secure a fantastic property for your platform, and help also to make it bespoke to your platform, right? You do have creative influence. You have a say in the casting or in scripts, right? And or in the last cut, in the editing, and you are involved early on, maybe in selecting some of the creatives as well. So you can secure content, great shows early. You have to pay more than licensing. However, it's still a lot cheaper than produce it locally, right? So, and we see a lot more co-production in general going, and pre-acquisition. That's one thing. And then when you look at the platforms are becoming more active in co-production now because as they are on their quest to get from 200 to 500 million or wherever they are, you know, they also, they need to go in and make their content offering really a little bit bespoke to the local markets. And to make content offering bespoke to the local market does not necessarily mean to produce local. Okay. So in some markets, horror works better than in others. In some markets are really still loving procedural. Some markets are a little bit more premium than others. It's like there is even when you look at it from the license acquisition or from the co-production perspective and getting involved in foreign content from the perspective of the platform, the co-production can be interesting. And then that's one thing. And the other thing is what we see is platforms now are open to co-produce local shows, meaning not picking up global rights. When you talk to an Amazon or maybe Paramount or basically to all platforms now, almost all platforms are now open to commission or buy into a show only for maybe one territory. So for a few, start picking it up for a few territories, and then leave the producer/distributor with the rest of the world. and we take it from there. So the market is just like, it's fluid, and there's a lot more variety in terms of structuring deals and financing shows.
Have there been any particular examples that Fremantle's been involved in recently that have had sort of quite good success on that co-production front?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for instance, we're bringing a show called Cod, which is a comedy from Australia, originally commissioned by Stan, and in Australia. And we got involved early, and what we loved is it's set on a fantasy island, and it's a comedy. It's social media. How do we see ourselves in social media? The phenomenon of fame via social media, and it's a spoof. And we have Matthew Fox in there that we love from Lost, and we have Sean Penn
back on an island.
Yeah, and we have him back on an island, exactly. Lost, back on an island, and we have Sean Penn in there. We have an amazing ensemble cast in there. So originally created for Stan, they commissioned it. We got on board early, and then we brought ITVX in. They were an early acquisition co-producer, and now we're taking it to the rest of the world. Or we're bringing a show to MIP called Alice and Jack. Andrea Riseborough and Donald Gleason, and that's a show where early on we had Channel 4 came in, and early on also we had PBS coming in, Masterpiece, and we're taking it out to the rest of the world. So getting people on board early, or partners on board early, that's a key part of our business.
Oh, very exciting. So I guess going from a key part of your business to an emerging part of your business, I suppose, you mentioned you've got over 30 fast channels now operating.
Yeah.
You talk to me a little bit more about your strategy in that space?
Yeah, of course. So key market in fast is the US. And we have a dozen channels out in the US across most of the platforms. You can say in the US, there's about 14, 15 big platforms, of which 3, 4 are really big. And then there's a middle section and then some smaller. And these channels are what we call owned and operated channels. So we are creating the channels, we are scheduling the channels, we set them up, and then we deliver them to the platforms, and the platforms sell the ads, and then it's a revenue share model with most of those. It works well. And why it works well for us is we have some amazing brands in the US market. So BUZZR is the mother of our fast business. BUZZR is that game show channel, which is fed by our amazing game show catalog, and it launched as a syndicated cable channel 7, 8 years ago, and then we took that channel and we brought it to Fast when Fast started to evolve. And since then, we launched a lot more single IP channels. Now there's the Price is Right or Family Feud channels are out there. We have Baywatch out there. We have Jamie Oliver. We have Cooking Channel. We have Home Design Channel. So we have some genre channels, and we have some single IP channels out across multiple platforms in the US. I think when you look at the US, the challenge now is you really should think twice if you want to go into fast, and what's your offering in the fast. What kind of offering do you want to bring to the fast market? Because the offering in the US fast market grew exponentially. It exploded, right? So you have on most of these platforms now, you have a few hundreds channels. Where there has been one crime channel maybe 5 years ago, there might be 15 crime channels. So there's an exponential inflation of channels in that market, which means it's a little bit hard for the consumer to choose and pick. It's a little bit overwhelming offering. And it also means that while the overall advertising market in fast grew and is still growing, the offering in that market grew much more, which means money per channel is down in average. And what the platforms are doing now is they are going and looking at their offering, and they are sunsetting underperforming channels. So while fast is an exciting space, you should really think about, do you have the right brand for that market? Do you really want to launch the channel? Because it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of process behind, and it might be not such a great experience if you have your channel out for 6 months and then you get canceled, right? Our strength is really, we have amazingly strong brands, especially in the US market, and then it makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, absolutely. I've looked through, when you look through a sort of fast channel EPG of hundreds and hundreds of channels, it really is like when you see something like Baywatch or something else pop up, that really is the thing that will sort of gravitate people towards it.
Yeah.
And a really fascinating way of giving a new lease of life on a lot of what is in some cases decades old content.
Yeah, it's like, you can look at it's a new window, right? It's a you, and when I think we can also look at it from the perspective that if you launch a fast channel now, it doesn't need to stay there forever, right? It's like, it's another window, so you can have your brand, your piece of IP, you can have it there for a while, and then you might rest it and put it somewhere else, right? And even if you have a genre channel, within that genre channel, you refresh the brands. You don't need to keep the same program brands on that same genre channel forever.
Mm. So something I've heard in terms of strategy from some other fast channel suppliers is when they will have a genre channel like that, they might monitor and see where the spikes are and use that as a kind of litmus test to determine which of those shows within that genre channel they should spin out into a sort of channel of its own that is entirely that show.
That's a very good idea. That's
Mm.
that's for instance a very good idea. At least it gives you a clear indication what shows work and which shows you might want to take off that genre channel as well, right? And the exciting here is, for people like us, we are in the direct to consumer business. We see the data, we can see the traffic, and we can respond to it, right? We can change the programming, we can change the scheduling, we can run marketing stunts, which we do. We can put stuff exclusive for a while on a certain platform, right? We can play really, really round, in close coordination with the platform. Clearly, this is channel business, meaning you're not just putting it out there and leave it on its own. You really have to take care of your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jens. I think we've covered quite a lot there, and I think we're coming close to the end of our time on this episode. But it's been really, really exciting to talk to you about this. Is there, before I let you go, is there any content? Obviously, we've talked about a lot of your upcoming stuff, but is there anything in particular you've got upcoming, or maybe coming to MIP that you're particularly excited about?
We do have a few shows coming to MIP. We have indeed. So I mentioned Alice and Jack, which we're going to premiere at MIPCOM, and we're going to have Andrea Riseborough and Donald Gleason there for the premiere. And it's launching on Channel 4, and it's going to be Masterpiece in the PBS in the US. I mentioned Caught with Matthew Fox and Sean Penn, the comedy. We're going to bring From Dancing Ledge for ITVX Platform 7, which is an amazing thriller. We're going to bring Natalie Dormer in White Lies, which is crime thriller. We're going to bring From Dancing Ledge for Channel 4, we bring Big Mood, which is set in the space of mental health and is, at its heart, it's still a comedy, and how they produced it and how they solved that question is absolutely stunning and remarkable. So a very strong drama slate, and then also a very strong factual slate, like movies like Coco Chanel, for instance, or we bring in Wales. So we bring in some nice nature documentaries in. We bring The House of Kardashians, produced by 72 Films, which is also a Fremantle company. That's going to be exciting. It's going to be here on Sky and in the US on Peacock. So it's going to be quite a big slate, about 50 new titles.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, wrapping round to where we started, a very broad selection of shows. That
Yeah,
really
and also
exciting.
some new exciting new entertainment formats, right? That's really also very, very important for us, because the beauty about entertainment formats is that local production business that I mentioned earlier, right? So it's like that wide base of Fremantle activities is what brings in a very stable business, and can also then at the end of the day, for instance, feed fast channels.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Jens. I'll keep an eye out for all of those shows.
Watch them
Absolutely.
all,
And,
Jack. Watch them all.
yeah, and I'm going to catch up with neighbours as well and see what's going on in Ramsey Street, of course. So yeah, that's been really, really great chatting to you, and hopefully we'll have you on again in the future. But until then, take care.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Inside Content, the TV industry podcast brought to you by 3Vision. With decades of TV industry experience and real-world success, we know the ins and outs of the market like nobody else. To learn more about our TV consultancy services, head to 3vision.tv.